Did that coincide with All Time Low becoming the first band that really broke the UK from the label?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a big piece of it, you know? I mean, kudos to those guys. They work incredibly hard. They still do, and they have such an incredible fan base. In those early days, I remember when Plain White T's was gonna take them out, there was this debate about paying the tour support. And it was like, well, is that a lot or is it not? And you know, you're looking back and it was very little for what came out of it. And you know, those guys, I think sometimes American fan base or business doesn't see how well they did here in the UK very early on. And they had, I mean, at that time too, Radio One was taking rock music maybe a little more seriously. I don't know if that's a rude thing to say or not, but you know, All Time Low was that thing we could come over and say, this is kicking ass. These are the teams we're going to have. We are going to go work this at radio. We are going to get A-list on this. We could get in and, you know, call HMV to say, we're going to sit down and talk to you because this is what we got. Hey, UK, Apple, this is what we have. And, you know, I think for the team in, you know, the Hopeless team, we could come here and say, I know you don't know much about us, but we're breaking an artist here and we're going to keep knocking on the door until you open it up. And we did that work and it made a huge difference. And I think that previous to that, a lot of the labels from the US didn't have a team or a setup here or in Europe. And we felt pretty emboldened to do that. I mean, if we're going to sign these rights worldwide, we should have people on the ground that are music fans. Everybody who works at Hopeless is a fan of music. Like the story I have is not unique to the people I work with. Like they are huge fans. They've been a part of the scene. We did the same thing here. We hired those team members and went and worked it. And that was, All Time Low was a huge part of that. I mean, a huge part of building this, you know, the team here. And it was fun to work on. And we were able to bring in and work on other things along in tow. And then we could say like, hey, we do Avenged. Oh, we didn't know that. Yeah, that's us as well. And it worked really well.
Avenged, had they already moved on by the time this was doing that well? Because it's
Yeah.
crazy that they wouldn't have broke the UK for you.
Well, you know, I can't speak to what the process was like while they were here because I came to the label in '05 and they went upstream right at the end of 2004 to Warner. We obviously had the catalog and we, you know, I think it's one of the things that I love about being at Hopeless is that you're at Hopeless, we're going to work your project for the rest of our career because we believe in it. We believe in you. We believe in what you're up to. We believe in what that means for the community and the culture. We want to work hard on it. Avenged was already at Warner. And, you know, from the sense of like working the catalog for them, we talked about it all the time. I mean, it was a huge piece of the fabric. Waking the Fallen is still a game changer for the company, you know, and but we weren't working it as if they were ours, right? We were just talking about it in the sense of like, here's catalog. We want you to don't take it off the shelf. This is an important record for this band, you know, but All Time Low was here and we were working that while bringing new bands over.
Do you remember any specific sort of exciting moments that came from that band blowing up over here?
I'm trying to think of a good specific. There's so many amazing moments where I think that, you know, probably the moment they did Wembley here, I think we were going through Nothing Personal and all that. I think that in so much of even the history of like Wonder Years and Neck Deep and All Time Low and a lot of the bands we have, I think it starts, I think when I walked in, I was telling you, you know, the belief system of who is this band? It's never going to work. You know, oh, that sounds like something else. And it felt like clawing and fighting tooth and nail, you know. And I think that when you can get to a place where you're going to sell 10,000 plus tickets and you walk somebody in and you say, you can't really say that anymore. You know, we've done the work. And I know that, you know, we don't have a problem twisting arms because we believe in these projects and these artists. Like we really do. But it is nice when you can walk into a room and say, yeah, I mean, the band's done the work, management's done the work. They have done and put in sweat and tears and their own money, and we've gone and done that in the back end on our part of it. And you can turn around and say, you know what, there's no more debate about this. And I think that that moment around Nothing Personal at Wembley was a huge, huge, huge marker.
How did you go about actually signing the band in the first place? I heard that they like showcased with Fueled by Ramen, and then you sort of like swooped in.
You know, I don't know about the showcases or anything. I remember showcases. When you say the word showcase, I get a queasy feeling. I remember these things. I remember being with Counting Stars years ago and having to do these. It's very awkward to get on a stage in front of 6 people and be like, we're going to play a show now for you. They had been touring with our band Amber Pacific, and we just liked the music a lot. You know, we loved what they were doing. And, you know, we just reached out, started the conversation, you know, like we'd love to do this. We got on the phone call, you know, the guys were young, they were in their teens. You know, I remember talking to their parents and, I was young too, so it was Lewis and myself, and everybody's just chatting with the band, and it felt like um, a good match, and I know obviously through this process for every band, there's so many semantics of, okay, what is our favorite label based on what they have, and how do we get that done, and who's willing and who's the most excited. And I think we got in there and did that deal. And it was, I remember being a really fun process. I remember being out in Baltimore at Sonar and saying hi to the guys, and they were so young, and it was going to be a lot of fun. And we were talking about their release show going from this 400 cap room up to this 1,000 cap room in the area. And it felt big. And at the time it was like, okay. And then when the EP came in, we were like, okay, this is great. We worked it, and it was selling an inordinate amount of CDs, and we still couldn't get people to take it seriously. And
Was
then
that the Put Up or Shut Up?
Put Up or Shut
Yeah.
Up, yeah. And then So Wrong It's Right came in, and we heard Dear Maria, and we're like, oh yeah, this is it. And I think at that time there was so much noise, it was hard to cut through. But that record came, and we just started. I mean, I remember from Ian in our office being at MTV and myself being at Target, which the big retailer in the U.S., and sort of these big markers like, here's where we got to win, and we won people over it. But credit to All Time Low. I mean, if you've met them, their attitudes and personalities, like they make people feel a part of the process. They're always very family oriented in that way, is the way I'd put it. And
I've met with them a couple times, and they've been awesome. The first time, I only say this because it was so cool, but the club we've got in Birmingham, we had approached them to do a DJ set, and they were just like, we don't really want to do it after the show. We're probably going to be pretty tired, so we're just going to chill. But they were just like, can all the crew come and just party? And we were like, yeah, of course. So they ended up coming with the crew and partying, and then they were just stood with us on stage, and they were like, can we DJ? And we were like, if you want to. And they were like, we won't charge, it just looks fun. And then Jack just jumped on and did like an hour and a half. Like, we didn't pay shit.
That just I think the one thing that we I'm sure everybody knows it at this point is that from the early days, it was, we're going to go out have the best time of our life together as buddies, and so many bands go through so many changes, and All Time Low has not. And I give them a lot of credit of figuring that out and putting it together and being sort of their own family and having fun. I don't think anybody can ever peg them as it's, oh, they got to do it for the money. Like, if they like it and they're having a good time, they'll do it, and I can't speak for them. I can't put words in their mouth, but I've always felt like they're honest, they're forthcoming, but they're going to go have a good time, and it's about their fans. And I think that's what's allowed them to be who they are.
Are they the first band that really broke, that stuck with the label?
I think so. They were with us for a couple records, and during that time of so many majors coming in, they did go to Interscope for a moment. I think there was a lot of changes in that era of what is rock music post this period. A lot of A&Rs going away, a lot of changes. I think they made a great record. They worked really hard. I think that I don't claim to know all the changes at Interscope, but things did change over there. And then they were back out looking for a new home, and we reapproached them, and said, hey, we'd love to work on this again. And they came back, and we did Don't Panic, which was, I think, the most fun. It was nice to say, hey, we're just going to go back to basics in some ways. And God, it was a great campaign. It was long. There was lots of videos, did a lot of fun stuff. And then, getting to Future Hearts was such a huge, huge moment to have that #1 around the country. But I think, yeah, in the sense of like bands sticking around, I think in extending deals, I don't, up to that point, I don't remember having, using the word extension much, but we had a brand new history with them that was a one-off, and we extended that. And from there, I think in the era of time, we'd started working on Wonder Years. We had Yellow Card at the label at that point. And a lot of these where, I think the big sort of conversation point within there is that the majors in some ways had stopped buying all these bands, right? And I think that the labels like ourselves became, we don't need a major to do that job. Like around the, we have offices in 7 countries. We can work radio, we can work all the we'll call it big boy stuff. I don't need a major daddy to come in and do that work for us, right? Like the structure, this team, what we're able to do and access based on relationship work and being here. I mean, there was a time where I was in the UK 5 times a year, busting around, and I think that changed the way we thought about stuff. It wasn't, okay, I hope someone buys this out. It was, let's go make hits together. And I think what we did with the bringing Yellow Card in, where we went with Future Hearts with All Time Low, how we were progressing on Wonder Years, what came about with Neck Deep and all these bands we did, Used and Taking Back Sunday and Sum 41. It was, there's really nothing out of reach for us. I don't mean that in a way like where I have no humility. I mean, there's still days where we get plenty of no's, and I hear from people all the time, well, you don't have a lot of hits. Yeah, maybe because you don't see it on a chart somewhere, but I got plenty of hits and kids who lose their mind over this stuff. So was All Time Low the first? Yeah, I mean, that relationship went for a long time.
Did it hurt when they left?
Am I on a personal sense?
Yeah, in a personal.
No, I mean, we talk about this all the time. I mean, I think that the goal at Hopeless has always been this. I want to work with artists that want to be here. And it is, this no parents, no rules type business, right? And I think that you got to remember that, or if you don't know, right, to be in a band is pretty hard work. Hard work in the sense of you're going to tell your family, I'm going to be in a band. And they're going to go, oh, great news. Can't wait to support you. You're going to tell your partner or someone in your life, like, hey, I'm going to be out here for 7 years and make no money, if I ever make money at all, right? And I think that, we have a lot of great colleagues in this business. I have that bias, like Hopeless is amazing. I love it. I'm here. I've been here 20 years. But I think for every band that is here, we'll put in the effort to say, we want to work with you again. Here's what we're proposing. Here's how we're going to do that work. But, if a band needs to go to another place, I think it's our responsibility to celebrate that choice, because it is a hard choice to make. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's like, F these guys, which is fine. I just think we have to support that decision and then be a partner to them, because this is not a win or lose game, right? This is a community, especially on the, you look back at history of like Warped Tour and all the different labels. It's better to be supportive and helpful to everyone. I don't think it makes any sense to be like, well, screw you, never call me because you went here. I don't think that's the case. And I would, we'd love to work with any artist that makes sense for us at that time and makes sense for them, right? Because there is obviously a emotional, creative building side, and there's a business side to it that's a contract and all of that. So on a personal sense, do we want to continue to work on things? We will continue to work on things, and I hope that anybody calls, and if they don't, that's okay too. Like I'm in this for the long haul because I believe there's a kid who needs it, just like me. I needed this at one point in my life, and I still do.